Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30 and we will begin the meeting. First and foremost, cell phones, if you would all silence them, please. And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Stern,
Present.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Tercibia.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes that they would like to make or adjustments? I move we accept. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's then move on to presentations and proclamations. And I believe Claude Schmidt is here. Are you here? Oh, excellent. John would like to read it for you, and we're very pleased you're here with us. Thank you.
So this is a proclamation honoring veteran Claude Schmidt. He's the CEO and founder of the Veterans Last Patrol. It's a nonprofit organization. Whereas Claude Schmidt grew up in New Jersey and South Carolina, attended Wolford College, and after college, he joined the United States Army as an officer. He was assigned to an armor unit in Germany, armor being tanks. Whereas during Claude Schmidt's 31-year career in the Army, he progressed to the rank of full colonel. His assignments included being the commander of the Army's Infrastructure Security Force and commandant, responsible for training the new Iraqi Army and oversaw 17 schools for Army training throughout the country. Whereas Claude Schmidt's last assignment was the Wounded Warrior Flight Evacuation Program as a senior military leader for the program. He witnessed the importance of companionship for veterans and their family members during great adversity. Whereas Claude Schmidt retired from the Army in 2013, upon retirement, he was inspired to create the Veterans Last Patrol, a nonprofit organization, and as the founder and CEO of the organization, the name of the organization reflects exactly the bond between the hospice patients and volunteers. Whereas the Veterans Last Patrol organization is now operating in 24 states, providing support for veterans in hospice care, helping with basic needs and fulfilling last wishes. Whereas Claude Schmidt and his wife, who is here today, Ludmilla, have lived in the town of Highland Beach for 2 years, enjoying the ocean, the vibrant surroundings, and the friendly community. So whereas the town of Highland Beach, Florida recognizes and thanks Claude Schmidt for his commitment, heroic contributions, and sacrifices serving in the United States Army and his dedication to helping veterans and their families through the Veterans Last Patrol organization. Now, therefore, I, for Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby honor Claude Schmidt, a veteran hero. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be affixed this day, the 7th of February, 2023. Thank you.
John, if you would come around front, and Colonel, if you would come up here so we can get some photos. You can hold the thing. Isn't that it?
That's it.
Yeah, come around front and hand it to him. And let's all stand behind him. Okay, we will move on now to public comments. And the first on the queue is Christine Villegas. Am I pronouncing it properly? Are you here? She's online.
Chris? Chris, can you please unmute your device?
Are you in communication with her at all?
Yeah, I'm trying. She has two devices here. So let's see. One is connecting. Okay, she's there.
Hello,
Hello, welcome.
thank you. Sorry, the computer was not coming on, so I went to my cell phone.
Oh, well, that's working just perfectly. So the mic is yours. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Hillman, Vice Mayor Moore, and commissioners. This letter that I wrote to you and you placed on the agenda, thank you, is a broad request. It seeks information, simple facts. It seeks facts and true information from the city, our elected officials, on the Highland Beach recycling program. This request seeks fundamental information about the program under the March 2021 agreement that Ms. Gaskins, your clerk, was kind enough to send to me. And what happens under this agreement? What happens to our plastic water bottles? What happens to our takeout food containers that we wash and dry and put carefully in our bins each week? What happens to our green, brown, and plastic containers? The truth is, I believe that the partners that you have under the agreement, Waste Management, has said that their trucks blow, shake the recyclables, separate paper and plastic and metal as the trucks leave Highland Beach and go to the transport center, which is owned and operated by Palm Beach Waste Authority. And that is the agreement Highland Beach entered into in 2021. Is the truth as that agreement says, or as your partner, Palm Beach Waste Authority says, that Highland Beach's recycled materials are sorted, bundled, and sold from the 7 transfer stations to the tune that in 2022, 91 million pounds of marketed recyclable sold materials were sold on behalf of the Palm Beach Waste Authority? Or is it, as Commissioner Shoemaker wrote to our residents on January 24th, 2023, when he stated, and I quote, "We have learned in discussions with town officials to our dismay that while we diligently recycle glass and paper, the Waste Management Company does not sort all of the recycled products, but simply adds them to all the other trash. In effect, there is no effective recycling program except for cardboard, electronic, and metal." Close quote. Words matter, Mr. Mayor, to me. Words matter to this town. And there's a conflict between what is in this agreement and what these words were from Commissioner Shoemaker. Is Waste Management taking Highland Beach's recyclables to one of Palm Beach Authority's 7 transfer stations where it's separated and bundled and sold? That's a factual question I pose to you, Mayor Hillman, What is the truth? What are the facts? We as citizens need answers. Do we have a Highland Beach recycle program for what is stated in the contract with Palm Beach? I would like some answers. I think there are probably other citizens who'd like some answers.
Okay, thank you. First off, would you identify yourself, please, and where you live?
Yes, I am Christine Villegas. I live at 3407 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach. I
Thank
have
you.
been coming to Highland Beach for 12 years and will be a full-time resident in 2023.
Oh, terrific. I'm going to defer to our town manager, who can give us the facts. Marshall, all yours.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'm not aware of what may or may not have been communicated, but here's what we do. So we've confirmed with Waste Management, they collect all recyclable materials that are collected at the curbside. They do it in a separate truck. They take it to a solid waste authority. Everybody in the county, all municipalities deliver our waste to the county system. So all your recycling go to one of the 7 transfer stations, or MRFs as they call them, which is a material recovery facility. From there, the materials are separated off conveyors, this and that. Contaminated stuff would then, yes, become trash. If it's contaminated, something that doesn't work, but they then separate there. They separate all the materials into the commodities to be bundled and sold in the marketplace. There is an exception for crushed glass that can be sent to a landfill for daily cover, if so chosen. I know that Commissioner Shoemaker at our strategic priorities meeting last week talked about any potentially recycled materials that end up in the waste. So if you have a cross contamination, say you throw a TV set away and that gets to the incinerator, because we incinerate our trash here in the county, all of the precious metals, because of the temperature at which they burn, would fall into the bottom ash. The bottom ash is then taken to a different process. Things that can be recovered are recovered there. But as we all know about the recycling market, it kind of goes up and down, usually a lot of down lately, especially plastics. But there are certain commodities that do hold in the marketplace, as I've had the conversations with Waste Management, cardboard, electronics, metals, but newsprints, plastic, your mixed paper, wax paper, things of that nature. You think like a milk carton or something. Those are still bundled and sold, but usually sold at a loss, but that's where the system kind of accommodates that loss. But we do, per our contract, just to let you know, we do collect it. What you do in your buildings or your home is up to the individual. We always encourage people to recycle more, but once you get it to the curb or to your collection facility, Waste Management takes the recycling to the recycling area, takes the trash to the trash. Per our contract,
Okay.
we do those things.
Thank you.
Yep.
I believe that answers your question. The issues you have in your building are clearly not the purview of this commission. So I don't know what else we can do to assist.
Well, I think that what you clarified, Mr. Labadie, is that the contaminated material is what is that is material that has improper plastic bags or some other type of material with it that is taken and that is incinerated. But the rest of the product, to the tune of 91 million pounds, of which plastic was almost 10%, that is my understanding. That is in fact bundled, and then they crush it and bundle it, and then they try to sell it on the open market, which, as I said earlier, they sold 91 million pounds. So I think it is
Okay,
only.
I'm sorry. We're going to stop right here. We've answered your question. What goes on in your building and what you personally would like, not the purview of this organization. If you have further questions, give Mr. Labadie a call, and I'm sure he'd be happy to discuss it with you. But I don't believe it needs to be handled here as an outside commission meeting. So thank you very
Mayor
much.
Hillman, I think the question that still is unclear in my mind is that we have regular recycled materials, that being plastic bottles, cans, and
Okay, for the
paper.
last time, I'm going to tell you again. If you want to continue the conversation, call Mr. Labadie. I don't want to take up additional time now at this meeting. He would be happy to tell you anything you need to know. Thank you very much for calling in.
All right, thank you.
Let's move on now. Let's move on now. Does anybody else want to talk at the mic? Go right ahead.
Hello, I'm Maggie Chapelier. I'm on the Natural Resources and Advisory Board. I just wanted to let you know that March 1st, we have a library event that has to do with dune restoration and educating the public, beachgoers, about our dunes. And we have an expert coming in to make a talk. Well, my concern is that not many people know about this. And we need to get the word out, especially condo boards sending a representative, people that live specifically the single family homes on the ocean as well, sending their representatives. So what can we do to have the right people come to our Wednesday, March 1st event at 6 p.m., which the Natural Resources Board has put together as our educational outreach for the community to help with one of your strategic priorities, which is dune restoration. That's my question.
Okay, it is a strategic priority. The commission is fully behind it, but it's not on the agenda. We had an opportunity to add it to the agenda. We didn't. So we'll put it on to the next one. In the meantime, I'm going to ask staff to work on ideas on how to better communicate this. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for bringing it to our attention. Yes, sir.
Address previous discussion.
Excuse
My
me.
name,
Could you repeat who you are and where you're from?
my name is Joseph Swider, and I'm a resident of 3407 South Ocean
Thank you.
Boulevard, the same building what we discuss issues.
Yep.
And I'm also a member of the board for over a couple of years of that building, Clarendon. I want to apologize for taking your time, but I have to correct some details that have come to your attention. Letter consists of kind of two parts. I don't address trash collection, but I want to correct some misleading information in the letter. Our Conda is carefully reviewing our budget and all expenses. We want to become more efficient and believe we can redirect labor to do other important tasks while continue to support the recycling program. The board only made decision about how to collect trash inside the building to pick up by waste management trucks. After discussion, the board voted unanimously to have a 30-day trial. Mr. Shoemaker, and here I address information in that letter, couldn't suspend the recycling program. Any activity in our conduct implemented if the board approved it. Mr. Shoemaker is not trying to make radical change in the conduct, unless preparing conduct for town inspection is a revolutionary idea, or replacing defective exhaust fans qualify him for membership in China Communist Party. Residents were not upset by the board decision, by board historical trash decision. The minority disagree and majority agree. I'm not here as an advocate for Mr. Shoemaker. As a member of current board, I was only one who voted against electing Mr. Shoemaker as a president of the Conda. A few months later, I think I'm wrong. We had a competitive election in December 2022. Mr. Shoemaker had the highest number of votes with 70% of votes. Mrs. Villegas wasn't elected. Some residents of the Conda expressed their opinion that Mrs. Villegas' recent activities represent a form of election denials. Years ago, myself and my family escaped the most democratic country, the USSR. Therefore, I fully support the right of dissidents to disagree with any or all of our board decision. Mrs. Villegas is trailblazer in my eyes and has shown when a resident disagree with the board decision, we could discuss our internal matter and problem during town hall meetings. However, I believe I have a sacred right to put empty bottles in the garbage bag for 30 days in my condo. Next concern. I don't know anything about local politics. Suddenly, I received this letter of Mrs. Villegas included in newsletter from unknown source to me, which calls the Committee to Save Highland Beach, together with notes that it was sent to 2,497 residents of Highland Beach. I'm not a private Ryan. I don't need to be safe. Highland Beach is, in my opinion, paradise. The US accepted a stateless political refugee and my family many years ago. We're already safe. If Mrs. Villegas planned to run for the town election, I would fully understand the reason for her letter. Losing an election is a perfect reason to start a new campaign for different office. Whatever her motives, we're free to manage our condo for the benefit of our residents. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, sir. So start with your name and location,
My name
please.
is Judy Ferlin. I'm living in Clarendon. I've been there about a year. And I have managed and constructed millions of hospital and healthcare facilities for decades in Houston, Texas. My experience in leading building maintenance teams is extensive. I fully support the Clarendon Board's decision to better utilize our resources in our case, our maintenance personnel, by consolidating our recycle bins to one central location instead of 11. This will allow maintenance personnel to focus their work where it is needed, such as touch-up painting, minor repairs, instead of transporting trash. Our commitment to the city's recycling program has never wavered. We support all the hard work that goes into making Highland Beach the best place to live, and we take pride in this. Thank you. This issue is a building management issue that should never have been raised before. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Anybody else before we move on? Yes. Rena.
Hi there, Tim Rotolo, 3400 Ocean Boulevard, which is the Coronado. And I'm here today to listen to the discussion of accessory marine related public input meetings primarily. I participated in the third of the 3 meetings at the library with Miss Allen. And the reason for my participation is because the Coronado is working to redevelop their marina after decades of relative quiet and then some recent casualties and other accidents nearby. And I don't think that what they have planned is conducive to the area. I just wanted you all to know that. And one of the things, my mother is also a resident of Highland Beach, and some of the things that they're presenting are leasing the docks. They've talked about leasing them to outsiders, insiders, whoever they can get money from. And her point was that Coronado is a not-for-profit corporation, and her understanding is that the town of Highland Beach doesn't allow revenue such as this. And so I just wanted to point that out. It wasn't something that came up at the meetings. But another item that came up at the meetings was the purchase of a police boat and a staff member to staff the boat and patrol the intercoastal. And I was here last week to comment on my experience on the shared recreation path, and at the end of which I mentioned a suggestion that you might consider drawing a line down the middle because of the conflict that occurs related to bikers, even bikers with horns and bells and loud voices to make audible warnings to the pedestrians. The pedestrians don't like bikers on the shared path. And they make some real rude comments to bikers on the shared path to the point where it's so bad that you get the sense that the town of Highland Beach residents feel entitled to the path to some level. And the hateful comments are so vile that I feel like the town could similarly purchase a bike and send some of the police out on the bike to educate the public that it's a shared path. And because I feel like I have to educate them when I'm told to get out in the street where I belong, I typically stop my bike and say, ma'am or sir, this is a shared path. And when I do that, I get more vehemence directed at me. And it's not pleasant. And it would be nice to have some police or other education going on out there, maybe a business card with the fact that it's a shared path and who all is allowed to use the path. And another idea I had since last week was possibly sending the new patrol officers out with a bike. They could meet the public, introduce themselves, let them know what the path is about. And hopefully the residents would get the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make one comment. And it's not about the bikes, but every building has its own problems and they are not commission issues. And bringing it to the commission is really inappropriate because we can't do anything about it, even if we wanted to. You are independent private organizations. So I hope that you can handle those problems with your own boards. And that's it. Thank you.
Could I add to my time a little bit, sir?
I think you might have had a minute or two left. Go ahead.
I love you. And I've made a few public comments. I've experienced others up here. And a lot of times the people who come up here to make public comments get scolded. And just like you scolded me and the woman on the internet.
Excuse me. We don't scold anybody here. If you don't like what we say, that means you disagree. But we do not condescend. We do not scold. We have full support, recognition of our neighbors. And if I say something or somebody else here says something that you disagree with, does not mean we are scolding you. There are also very specific rules that this commission must operate by. And they do not include private associations. So thank you.
The private association.
I'm not going to debate it with you. Do you have another subject?
Okay, no, sir.
Anybody else like to come to the podium? Come right up.
Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach. First, I want to thank Ms. Villegas for having the courage to come forward and bring up the issue of recycling. What I heard from her, and the reason why we put her letter in the CSHB or one of our newsletters, is the fact that she wanted to say a commissioner was saying, we don't recycle. This was beyond the town. If Commissioner Shoemaker was just the president of the Clarendon, it would be one thing, but he also signed it as a commissioner of Highland Beach. And he was telling them and what was being done that we're not doing recycling. And all this woman, Ms. Villegas, was looking for was a confirmation that this town does recycling and the commissioner was wrong in what he said as a commissioner. That is not an individual building. That is a town issue. I say that, and now I'm going to move on unless Mr. Mayor, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll say one quick thing. I think that
You're
this
on my
woman
time, by
got
the
the
way.
answer.
You are on my time, just to let you
We'll
know.
give you the time. We always do, Jack. When's the last time I cut you off, told you to sit down?
Okay,
The last time was never.
okay, good,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. I'm glad to hear it.
Um, She got the answer to her question. Subject was opened, subject was closed. Let's move on.
So
all
the
yours.
town supports full recycling.
Of course,
Period, the end.
that's
Okay,
what, that's what
he's
you
looking
heard
to
our
get.
town manager say.
Perfect.
This
Excellent.
young
That's-
lady
that's-
also got a copy of the contract. So this is a transparent operation here. If
That's all we
somebody
want. That's all we
misinterprets
wanted to
something,
know. Because
they're
when,
human.
yeah,
Okay,
because when a commissioner is saying the opposite, it doesn't help the situation.
let's move on.
So now moving on. There was an excellent article earlier in January by one of our famous Coastal Star reporters who happens to be in the audience about the January 3rd meeting. And we actually wrote a short clip out on it. And I probably shouldn't have written that short clip without listening to what actually occurred at that January 3rd meeting. It was a mistake. And I got scolded by a number of people in emails. What's going on? When's the rep? So that was my mistake. I made a couple of mistakes recently in terms of trying to hire stuff. I mean, I need to be more careful in terms of what gets out and what gets released. But I did get back to the January 3rd meeting and listen to the whole 30-minute section this morning. And I recommend to everyone listening to go to the January 3rd video of that commission meeting and go to 1 hour and 10 minutes. I repeat, 1 hour and 10 minutes. It was a very interesting half hour. And it was disappointing to me because what I heard in that discussion was I thought things we moved past from last March's referendum. I heard the discussion already planning for March of 2024 referendum. I heard a wonderful approach by Commissioner Stern in which he recommended going from 350,000 to either 770 or 800,000 based on the COLA. And I looked at your numbers and it made sense. I do believe prior to the last referendum, there was discussion with one of my predecessors and one or two commissioners about trying to support that kind of numbers, but trying to cut out the loopholes that go along with it. What I heard at that meeting was nothing like what Mr. Stern was proposing. I heard all kinds of things from percentages and this and that. So I'm hoping that we move forward and we have a lessons learned from the last referendum. And I hope we don't hear comments like this anymore. Twisted, ideas were twisted on what the commission wanted. I won't say which commissioner that was, but he was implying that people were twisting what you were trying to get. And then there were other negative comments in terms of what happened last March. We need to move forward. And, you know, what occurred last March, I hope doesn't occur in March of 2024. You can't hire a marketing firm this time. And we don't want to go to battle, but we want to come up something reasonable. You're right. We need to figure a way to spend more money. But at the other point is when we actually look back, the 350,000 cap hasn't really hurt us in terms of things we've done, like the town, redoing the town building and things like that. So we have been able to do those things anyway. But anyway, we would like to work with you on doing that. But at the same time, we're looking for creating a box around it to know where we're heading. So one of the thoughts, so again, thank you, Commissioner Stern. I also would like to comment to Commissioner Natasha on her, I guess, kind of your sadness
Excuse me,
that your two public.
that's Vice Mayor.
What?
Vice-
Excuse me, Commissioner Vice Mayor. Yes, thank you. That the two things you've tried to do to incorporate public opinion, public involvement, the marine regulations, the signs, those were two great attempts. Don't give up. Don't give up. I heard your sadness that they just weren't working well. I think people need to understand what it means to them. They want to get involved. You would take a look at the issue 4 years ago with the bond issue. We had 93%. We had the highest turnout we ever had out, and we had 93%. Look at the bond issue with $100,000 that was spent on marketing.
Jack.
We still got 67%. And now I need to
Jack.
close so the mayor will stop giving me the eye. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay. Occasionally we go off a protocol and I'm going to this time. Just to
You've
share
done that
with
with me
you,
before, I think.
I did that last week also, or last meeting. To share with you and everybody here and those that are listening, our plan moving forward for future referendums is to hold forums in advance. So that any resident that is interested, wants to discuss the subject, add to some ideas, will have an opportunity to. So that's just wanted to share that with you. Thank you, Jack.
That wasn't discussed in that half-hour segment, but what was discussed? is you
Jack,
wanna-
Jack,
Let me
all
finish. You said you
stop.
want to hire a polling company,
Sit down, please sit down.
polling company.
Please sit down.
Okay, just want to make it clear. Go to the January 3rd and look at 1 hour and 10 minutes, everybody.
Do you enjoy being out of order and ignoring?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not funny. It's a disservice to yourself, to your organization, and to the town. So let's try to keep within the limits. Okay, anybody else? Go right ahead.
Sure. Ron Riame, Dalton Place. Jack. Liar, liar, pants on fire, you know. So what is it? The CSHB? I don't know, I'm not sure who you all represent, but whatever. But when you put out trash, and I used to have a blog that put it down, but you know yourself, I even sent you a couple of emails. I'm sure you saw them already. Regarding, let's just take first thing, you said that the Canadian firm that was hired by the town, which of course is not a Canadian firm, and you know it, and I even proved it to you. Isn't that correct, Jack?
That's not correct. I went and checked on.
Oh, really? Oh, really? And I gave you the documents, Jack. So liar, liar, pants on fire. Anyway, but okay, I just want the town to know.
You shouldn't be responding to
I
it.
just want,
He has
I
it,
just want to
not
know
you.
that the town, just want to know that the town did not hire a Canadian firm, okay? And then the other drivel that's put out by this organization called an organization is very disparaging. And of course, things like that, the town, had they passed the referendum for the 350,000, that all the projects were going to cost $1 million and had unlimited loopholes, and the taxes would have been astronomical, and so on and so forth. So, the fact is, people out there in TV land, you need to really look at facts. And this organization, whatever the hell it is, you need to make your own decisions and not be influenced by somebody who really doesn't know what they're talking about. Thank you and have a nice day.
Does that conclude those? Oh, come on, right up. Name and location first,
My name
please.
is Rich Ferlin. I live at 3407 South Ocean Boulevard in Clarendon. Somebody came up here and stated a fact set, and I like to speak in real facts and not twist them. Mr. Shoemaker never said that we don't recycle. He clearly said that certain people who work for the organizations told him that certain items that weren't profitable weren't being recycled. So there's a big difference between saying one thing and the fact, which was that he was told certain facts. So I please would like people from now on to speak the truth. I think it's more meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? New subject?
I'm not a political person. This is Maggie Chapelier. But I will say that there is a lot of negative stuff going on in Highland Beach right now. People misquoting and misleading people. I don't know where it's coming from, but I will say that some of the individuals in this room are saying things that are not true about other people that are running for town commission. And I want to set the record clear that negative campaigning has no place in Highland Beach. I am Maggie Chapelier. I have been living in this town since 1986. I've owned a home here. I don't know who these new people are who are making up stuff about our town commission and commissioners. And why don't you get off your rear ends and volunteer for the advisory boards that have so many vacancies and pretend like you can represent this town without doing anything for the town except gripe and complain about the people who are trying to do something, such as myself.
Do you have a point of view on that? I'm kidding. It was a joke. Anybody else before we move on? Yes, sir.
I second what Chapelier said. But it's me.
Oh, please, stop it. Stop it right
I
now.
don't believe I ever mentioned you
Okay, you-
ever.
Peter.
Okay.
Start with your name and location,
Right,
please.
it's Peter Kosofsky. Location is Villanova, 3505 South Ocean Boulevard. I wanted to just make a comment because my response was not published. First time that I could remember that the Committee to Save Highland Beach did not publish a response to an apology of a reader who said that thank God that the Committee to Save Highland Beach is supporting two qualified candidates, and we don't need a retired school teacher with too much time on their hands, a butcher, and a pharmacist. I'm not sure where that came from. My response, which was not published, was to say that the Committee to Save Highland Beach, as far as I know, was for voter participation, citizen participation in the elections, and they didn't want so many seats to go unchallenged. And I think that trying to support or deny a candidate because of their background and their profession is goes against everything that this town should stand for. In addition, I wanted to point out that 10 of our former presidents were teachers. The speaker at my graduation from the University of Pennsylvania was Hubert Humphrey, Vice President Hubert Humphrey, who was a licensed pharmacist. And I believe now there are somewhere between 30 and 38 pharmacists in Congress and other positions. And so some of our most revered politicians, past and present, have been school teachers, pharmacists, and come from all walks of life. I do not think that we should denigrate or that we should exclude someone from their profession from running for public office. And I'm surprised that the links that I provided to educate this reader were never published. And so I wanted to make that public. And that's all I have to say at this time. And I thank you for your.
Thank you. Anybody else? Once, twice. Moving on. Public comments are now closed. Let's move on to announcements. There are a series of board vacancies, as you suggested, that we'd love to get filled. There are two for Board and Adjustments and Appeals. Both are for 3-year terms. There's also one vacancy for an unexpired term that ends September 21st, 24. Financial Advisory Board has one vacancy for an unexpired term ending April 30th of 23, and another vacancy for an unexpired term ending April 30th of 24. Which one of these was your?
April of
23 or
23.
24? Well, okay. Natural Resources Preservation has 3 vacancies. We need to get after this, guys. Okay. Unexpired terms ending April 30th of 24. So we had the boards filled at one time, and this town has incredibly accomplished people. And we need to dig them out and convince them to serve. We've gotten several, and when they serve on these boards, they help the boards, they help the town. So I think we all need to start looking in our own backyards and finding a few more of these accomplished individuals. We need them. The commission needs the boards, the town needs the boards. Okay. Upcoming meetings and events, February 9th at 9:30 is the planning board regular meeting. February 17th at 1 o'clock is code enforcement. February 20th, town hall will be closed for President's Day. And the 21st at 1:30 is the next town commission meeting. Let's move on to unfinished business, and we'll start with an update on fire rescue.
Thank you, Mayor. We are headlong into design, so we're getting closer every week. So different elements of the design come together. The architecturals are probably 90% done. We're working on civils and structural. MEPs, which is your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, are all starting to come into fruition. Teresa and Mark with IT are working on moving some of the fiber out of the way. Again, still moving quickly towards the April start. If we can get going on piles early, we will. So basically, we're working very closely with Kaufman Lynn and our architects. Kaufman Lynn, again, is the contractor. They're working to develop our guaranteed maximum price. For those that may not know what that is, the CM at risk is a certain arrangement where we hire a firm to bid out all of the subs, and then they work with us. They basically buy the subs or buy the job, as their language would go. And then we work with them to close out each phase, and then we return those monies. So when you get the GMP here in March, it will include some contingencies in that number. So just be aware of that, but then we work with them to close that project down. So those are moving along pretty well. We're tying down some job descriptions. We're staffing up a little bit. So here, Chief's going to bring in some help. We're slowly moving Janelle over to work on the administrative capacity. Tom, who was one of our consultants, has agreed to come on for EMS training and support to help us get those protocols, procedures in place. So we're starting to build that momentum, and we're successfully doing it. Now, an interesting piece, we talked about the design of the fire trucks, and this is where I'm going to step out and bring up your chief to talk to you about our tricky situation with all of our vehicles, painting, wraps, and all that stuff with the design.
So you have no guts, huh? The controversial piece you're turning over.
That's what it is, right? He said he's here for me on those items, so I'm going to turn it over to him now.
This should be our biggest problem, right?
So Glenn Joseph, Fire Rescue on Town Highland Beach. This is the design that you agreed on at the last meeting. The fonts have been changed, the colors of what you prescribed. And so that's where we are. So we hit a bump, a snag in the road, a fly in the ointment kind of thing. To go from, let's go to the next picture. From this is what it looks like right now. So you see the top is black and the truck is red. And it's an aluminum body. So to go from this color scheme to the one previously is quite an involved process.
Yeah, you got to wrap it to do that.
Well, I thought we could wrap it, and we can't. Now, the reason why we bought this one was because of the supply chain. So we had no choice. I'm not saying that somebody's
No, of course.
I want the public to understand that, we had to buy this because the lead time to buying a new vehicle, which is what we budgeted for, was about 32 months. And we
saved a significant amount of money.
Beyond that, we saved a significant amount of money, but it was a 32-month lead time. So even if we wanted to buy a brand new truck, we couldn't, because we wouldn't have arrived and been serviced in time for May 1st, 2024. So we found this unit. It is a very good purchase, a very good price, like the mayor underscored, but the colors don't match our prescribed colors. So to make this truck look like the previous picture, we'll have to take the ladder apart and paint each section individually and then put it back together. So on the side of the unit, you'll see the roll-up doors, which are the ones, those are aluminum slats, so they roll up. So to actually change that color, we got to remove each slat, sand it down, and re-powder coat it because it's aluminum. So we can't do it with just a wrap or spray on paint, which means that's considered a significant expense, and it may delay the outcome of getting it on time.
Are you ready for suggestions yet?
So we have you have to give us some recommendations and decisions. But before you get to that point, let's go through the rest of it. Let's go to the next one. Our current fire truck color scheme is from Delray. It looks like this. This picture is from the Palm Beach Post, and you'll see they have the black but gray on top, and the stripe on the side is a little bit different design. Instead of being gray, it's black. So, and we're gonna take possession of this. I will not take possession of it, but be operating it in May 1st. We can't do anything with it before then. Let's go to the next picture. So our rescue looks like this right now. So we could do anything you want with it because it's basically a blank canvas. And your design, which is the next picture, looks like that. So that we can do without with very much process. Our current rescues have Delray's colors because we're going to have two, one in white and one in Delray's colors. So in seeing the entire picture, the rescues are not a problem. We could wrap those, we could paint them, we could do whatever we need with them. The fire engines are a problem because I could give you the estimate I've gotten to make the painting happen. And Mr. Marshall saying, go ahead, to paint the one fire truck is going to be somewhere between 50 and 62,000.
Are you ready now? Okay. First of all, obviously, I don't think we spend that kind of money. Second, it would be nice if all four vehicles matched perfectly. But the real world has come upon us and it's not going to happen. Can you go back to the one we purchased with the black cab?
That one.
Yes. If we just adjusted the black on the cab, not the ladders, nothing else, and put a white stripe on it, wouldn't that fit in?
If that's what you want, that's the direction. I'll get some quotes on making that happen and see what happens with that.
Let's look at that idea and let's flip over to our current one now.
That one.
Okay, so maybe the answer is a black stripe, not a white stripe. What I'm saying is it would be nice, but to drop 60 grand is a fool's errand. I mean, that's not good fiscal responsibility. And I don't have a problem with the two fire trucks looking differently than the two EMS vehicles because we didn't get them all at the same time.
That is correct. If I may offer an opinion. We're a new fire department starting up. Usually when you purchase a vehicle brand new, you pick your colors and it's painted at the factory. So while it's being assembled, they're painted before it's assembled. So it is not unusual for us to have something when Boca Raton or Delray change from one color scheme to the next. It's not unusual to have two different color schemes during the development phase. So having two separate colors initially is not a problem. If down the road you think that, you know, we have gotten the fire department started, we're rolling, we have some bandwidth in our staff, we could get this stuff done in a timely manner, then we can consider making any changes to make it fit a consistent appearance.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be to run it as it is right now, get the fire department rolling a year down the road or two at your direction.
Yeah,
we can make the changes.
I'm with you. We'll see what everybody else thinks, but our goal here was to provide enhanced service to our residents.
That's correct.
It had nothing to do with colors of equipment. And as long as we're focused on that, to me, the colors, like you're saying, can evolve over time. John, what do you think?
I think this is a two-part decision. You got the two fire engines, which is no brainer. I'm sorry. This is a two-part decision with the two engines being one part, which is having the same color. I don't have a problem with that at all. You might want to maybe use white somewhere to maybe have a little accent, but I think you just leave them as the way they are. However, the second part really is the EMS vehicle. Now, are you suggesting that we stick with our original plan of having white with a red stripe? Or do we make it red to match the fire trucks?
That's your decision.
What would you recommend?
I'd say make it red and just keep it consistent. We'll have the
Make it red,
yeah, make
the white stripe.
Yeah, just reverse what you see there.
Right. Done. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It doesn't make any sense to spend unnecessary money. We want the equipment that works and saves people's lives. I don't care what color it is.
Done.
Two questions. One, you mentioned timing and you mentioned cost. Could you address timing? If we went to the option that we wanted it to be as initially planned, what would that do to the timing?
Well, I checked with them. Usually I talked to a couple of vendors, or actually three of them, and they said that for that extensive amount of taking apart, putting it back together, disassembly and reassembly. Usually that could be done at the manufacturer's plant, so the manufacturer will actually do it. The one plant that did it where this unit is being stored right now shut down. And I think there's one in Florida, which means that the supply chain will become an issue or may become an issue. I don't know if that will be, but it may become an issue down the road. Getting it in the shop in time and getting it out in time to meet our deadlines and getting it set up for us. So my preference would be to begin operations, keep an eye on the goal, and let the process work itself out down the road. So the goal is to get ALS fire service running. That's our goal. Let's keep an eye on the goal and work out the process as time permits. That'd be my recommendation.
That being said, the other part of the question is, does this then exceed our budget if we were to go the option, even if it happened over a short period of time, or is this within the budget?
You want to take that?
So if it's 60 grand per, plus you got what, 10 to wrap each?
We're not doing it.
So that's $150,000. And I don't know that we have that much room in the budget when we're building a station to.
Times 4.
No, it's for all four. It's about 150 for all four. And the timing issue, which is more troubling to me than the money per se. It's kind of odd for me to say that because I'm usually pretty tight. So
Usually.
thank you. So yeah, the timing really is a concern to me. I want to make sure everything is here, ready to go, logoed. So when that midnight hits, we're wheels hot with all that equipment. So
Yeah,
that's really the
logo is
goal.
critical.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion is that the timing issue is important. If it fits in the budget, I would agree to work towards that over a period of time. If it doesn't fit in the budget, that's a different issue. But I think the first option of going with what we have would be the appropriate one to open on time.
Thank you. Natasha?
Yeah, so when I look at these pictures, they actually, the Delray truck and the one that we bought look very similar. It's just that the stripe and the cab are inverted. So, I mean, I just wonder if you sat them side by side, they would actually look pretty coordinated. It's just in, the black and instead of the gray. And so I think they look.
And who would
So
really
I am
notice?
in favor of not painting either of these trucks, but would we still be able to put our logo on and the Highland
Yeah,
Beach? words?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have our logos, our name all over it,
So
all
what
that.
you're saying It's just about painting, not about putting the logo in Highland Beach
That's
instead of
correct.
Delray Beach.
Perfect.
And that doesn't delay anything, and that's not an unreasonable cost.
Nope.
So yeah, I'd be in favor of leaving the base colors of what it is, including the stripes. I personally think that they look coordinated because it's still all the same colors, black, red, and gray. They're just a little bit inverted. And that we would put the logo and town of Highland Beach. Regarding the emergency vehicles that are white. So I have noticed Boca Raton has some red vehicles that are mostly red
Mhm.
with like a gold stripe, and then have some maybe newer vehicles that are white and then have a different. stripe.
So in my time there, in my experience, when they change, so they replace the rescues every 8 to 10 years because of use, usually 8 years. And they're on a repeating cycle. So if there's a new design that the chief decides that he wants to do, they'll do it on the new rescues. And as the old rescues get retired, that gets replaced. But they don't usually paint a used vehicle because it's just expensive and usually doesn't last, peels and all that stuff. So they want to just kind of initiate a change, and then as they refresh their vehicles, that change becomes implemented down the road. That's why you see 2 different colors.
So this is typical, even a town like Boca Raton, their fleet is not all matching.
No.
And so we would be consistent with.
Yes,
Um,
yes, we would.
So in my opinion, so what is the cost of painting the emergency vehicle red?
Well, that's the wrap that we've decided. We were narrowing down the design for that wrap. And the cost was somewhere around 10,000, if I'm not mistaken, to wrap this in the colors that we want. So as soon as we narrow down that design, because we have to redo all the things because now we're changing the color. And then we'll bring up with the cost, and it's around 10,000, 10 to 12,000.
And what is the cost if we went with the original plan, which was leaving it white and just putting the stripe?
Same price.
Oh, it's still
It's a wrap, yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah, we're wrapping it.
It's
So whether we
actually-
made it red or kept it white, I
Right.
guess I was hoping it would be a savings to just put a stripe.
No, it's
No.
actually, you're actually wrapping the whole.
We're covering the entire vehicle.
Whether you just put a simple little stripe
Correct.
or you color the entire thing red.
The reason why they wrap it is to save the paint, to make sure there's no chipping. So when people buy new cars or maybe a lease, they'll wrap the car so that the road chipping and all that stuff will not damage the paint. So when you take the wrapping off, the car looks pristine.
Oh,
So they wrap the entire vehicle.
so we can choose it. So we can choose, okay, then I guess I would be in favor of making them look as similar as possible, maybe making it red with a gray and black stripe so that we have all the same colors with all the vehicles.
Okay.
So yeah, if it's the same cost, then I'd say make these emergency vehicles as similar to the ladder trucks that we have.
Sounds good.
Let's go to the second picture in that stack there. The second one next, from the front. All right, this is where your truck is being stored. That's from the storage unit. You see it's plugged in. It's operated every month to make sure that it stays in service. It's undercover inside of, so it's not outdoors. And this is where it's being stored, just so you know. That's validation that it's being stored appropriately.
So just so we know, take a quick poll. Red and black or red and gray? Delray is red and gray.
Red and black.
Not that you want
Red
to
and black.
influence it.
All in favor of black, raise your hand.
I kid. Yes, red and black would be good.
Okay. Very good. Anything else on this subject before we move on, Marshall?
No, just, every week,
Yeah. updates.
big progress on the architectural and breaking ground. So we're getting closer. The manager's monthly, when I get that out, I am going to start requesting the community to see those that may wish to participate in the establishment of our inaugural, whatever, fire association or what's, what lack of better words, what foundation, like a fire foundation, to start getting that established within the community. So it's similar to police where certain special projects, the community support would be there to new gear from time to time. Like the police have used it for a camera or a beach cruiser. Maybe it's for bunker gear for the fire side, things of that nature. So we're going to start seeing who's interested and see if we can't put together a foundation, help us do some fundraising and things of that nature, community engagement. So we're hoping to get that slowly start kicking that off as well.
Good question. Fire tires on the truck. Are we getting red stripes or white walls?
They're standard.
Okay, we're moving on to the next subject, which is the all-important Triple R project with FDOT. For those that don't know, we have decided to put this on every agenda. So we have a continuing dialogue, continuing update. So back to you again, Mark.
So the first part I would say to everybody is March 13th, 6 o'clock. Library is the next round or next public meeting with FDOT. So they're going to communicate some of the updates in their design. I know a lot of people have talked to me in interest in traffic control, as I've been very concerned in speaking and making suggestions to them. So I would encourage everybody that wants to find out exactly what's happening, what's going on, to attend that meeting. And as the mayor had indicated, we're going to have this as a standing item. So if ideas come to folks or concerns, we're continually discussing this until basically June of 24, May of 24. So we'll get the fire station, we'll start a fire department, and then FDOT comes in and we have A1A construction. So we're hoping that we went out to bid for some sewer lead projects, to kind of a transformation of the original lining project. Because of timing issues and cost, we're trying to see if we can't pick up some laterals that are damaged. So any crossroad construction we can get done first. If we can't, then we can't, but we'd like to start televising all of our laterals and making sure those are clean, repaired, fixed. So when A1A gets repaved, we don't have to tear it apart when next time we need a lead done, which is basically a sewer connection from the ocean side back over to our transmission collection laterals on the west side of the road. So Again, we're talking again, I've had some conversation with folks that, 12 to 18 months construction, everybody starts to tense up. A lot of that is all the drainage we've been asking for. So as a community, we keep on saying we want to see all these drainage improvements. If we recall for that small section that was done around the 4,000 block, I think 3,800 block, that took a long time for a small section. They're talking extensive application of that storm treatment methodology or whatever. So that's what's adding a lot of time. So understand, why is it taking that long when a 3R project traditionally is a mill and overlay? 3R is not massive reconstruction of the road, massive widening. We'll say widening because we've had overgrowth onto the marked shoulders and there's some obligation to make sure those are 5 feet from FDOT. But this isn't like a big major, we're lifting the road a foot, adding 12 feet. This is basically a traditional repaving, but our energies to get them to address drainage from that initial drainage study is starting to come to fruition, and they're adding pieces. If we remember that element they discussed about where they're basically doing these, for lack of better words, these huge French drain applications, pipe infiltration type applications, because really we have no outlets. So, but again, standing item. So we can continue to have this discussion.
Anybody want to comment on anything? Go right ahead.
Well, I think the key point is that in this next meeting at the library, this is a chance for the community to hear directly from FDOT. This is not necessarily the commission dictating anything, although we are in constant communication. You're working with them continually, as we are going to review it continually. But this is a chance for the residents of the town to get direct feedback from FDOT.
Correct. And I've seen some emails out there. I thought we had discussed this before their last meeting. While we were in conversation with them, we're not in like these extensive design conversations. They're not coming and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's just occasionally we'll get information from the commission. I'll get something from you. I'll share with them, vice versa from the community. We'll kind of keep that open dialogue. Most of our conversation, just to let everybody know, staff's conversation with them in this entire process, one has been drainage. Since the day one I got here, everybody's been drainage. Okay, they got that message. They're working on it. The second is traffic control. We got to figure this out because it's going to be a mess during season. No matter what we do, it's going to be a mess. So those are the things that we've been stressing to FDOT is don't forget those two things.
Yep. I guess one thing we need to remember is FDOT does this all the time. So traffic control is something they're pretty good at, but it's still going to be a bottleneck. A couple of things that we have discussed would be having signs and possibly an officer at both entrances to the town, telling them this is now for only population, only residents. I guess it would have to be back at Linton, I did receive one email, somebody suggesting that we turn the street into a one-way street. And as the construction moves, it moves. That got me thinking, I don't know how they're going to do this. If they're going to do it hypothetically every 200 feet at a time, then possibly it's one way each way. I don't know, but this is what they do. So we can come up with ideas and bounce it off of them. But my guess is we're not going to have an idea they haven't yet thought of. Okay. Just to stress what you were saying. If we want to live with what we have on the pooling, flooding, call it what you want issue, we can get them in and out of here quickly. But we are saving a huge amount of money having them do it. Been a lot of work to get them to agree to do it. And it'll probably take care of 75–80% of the flooding issues. For that, we're going to have to invest some of our own time. Kind of like that simple.
So if I could just reinforce some of those points, Mayor. Clearly, the single biggest concern is disruption. And I think that we will continue conversations to understand how FDOT is going to mitigate disruption. Secondly, amazingly, as much as we've heard about drainage being a problem and how we got to fix the drainage, it was almost like, well, gee, why even do this project? Because it'll be too disruptive and the hell with the drainage. So it's like, whoa, wait a minute. So what we're going to see here, it takes some time, But it has to be done anyway at some point in time. And it will add value to our community in a huge way.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not our road. Happens to go through our town. Okay. And we do have some things to say about it,
Exactly.
but it's more partnering with them, having a seat at the table with them.
Yeah.
And they listen. So I think the idea of getting of trying to reduce the amount of through traffic is going to be a good benefit, because probably 80% of the traffic here doesn't live here. Okay, let's move on. Anything else? I'm sorry.
An incidental side benefit is that people who live right on the road or have apartments facing it will find it's much quieter when they are going over asphalt than when they are going over a hard surface. And you can tell that when you drive down the one section that they did asphalt. The ride is smoother and much quieter.
Yeah, the surface is deteriorating. It needs to work. Okay, can we move on? Ellen, go ahead.
If we look at the option to restrict traffic, just to local traffic, we're obviously going into Delray and into Boca. Is this something FDOT can they do, or do we have to go through other authorities in order to close off the road?
So what I've gotten from them, I said local traffic only. They said they didn't rule that out, but they said, you know, it's mostly signage. They don't really have the enforcement wing. So that's something that we would have to work with Hartman and the team to make sure we're kind of having a presence during those bigger construction times to make sure people know that we're taking it seriously. So, but otherwise, only reason why that come to mind was if we all recall, Hillsborough had a big sewer project and shut down A1A from time to time. It did shut down after people got used to, you just can't drive through Hillsborough. They avoided that area. So I think you have that initial phase during construction where people, I'm just worried about seasonal. Everyone's like, hey, I'm going to take a cruise down A1A, and they jam that traffic up. So our residents can't even get home because people are just stuck. Right. There's no turnaround areas. We don't have, center lanes to do. We don't have a lot of turning movements really in the right of way. So once you get in, you notice it now, if you go like lunchtime, right? Try to go north and hit the bridge and you're stuck. There's not a lot of room to turn around. You almost have to do like a 3 or 4 point turn. So we don't want to see a lot of that and just creating unnecessary jam ups, but they're open to the ideas. So.
Okay. Move on. Let's move on now to marine accessories. Ingrid, if you would join us. Thank you, by the way, for including all the sign-in sheets for the 3 different forums that we had. That was helpful. Not only to see how many came, but where they were from. Okay, it's all yours.
Very good. Good afternoon. For the record, Ingrid Allen, town planner. So on page 9 of your packets, I provided you a general overview of the public input meetings that were held in December. If you all recall, there were 3 public input meetings, December 5th, 7th, and 13th. These were based on these proposed changes or amendment concepts, if you will, pertaining to the accessory marine facility and seawall regulations that are currently in the town code. There was a PowerPoint presentation at each meeting. At that PowerPoint presentation, I went ahead and highlighted each amendment concept. I provided any corresponding town code regulations that may apply to the concept, a little bit broader, maybe not as detailed as the concept, but nonetheless provide you with those regulations that do exist right now in the code. And then I also offered a no action option, sorry, a no action option for each amendment concept. So if the commission decides not to move forward with one particular concept or concepts, what is a no action option? What is there currently in the code that may guide us? Maybe not as detailed, again, as the amendment concept, but does provide some guidance nonetheless. We did go ahead and provide a comment sheet at the physical meetings. We also had that comment sheet available on the town website. And I've attached the comment sheets that we did receive in your packets. We also took comments at the meeting. We had a very large easel pad for those of you that were there. I've gone ahead and provided those comments on pages 10 and 11 of your packets. And also one of the comments is specific in particular, did require some additional analysis by staff. I've provided it here again in the middle of page 9. There was a comment about looking at other municipalities and how they deal with direct intercoastal waterway. For those properties that are on the intercoastal waterway, how do they deal with encroachments? So I've provided a table here which looks at the dock encroachment and the boat lift encroachments and what the city of Boca Raton, the city of Pompano Beach and Delray Beach, what their codes state. And I'd made a little note on page 11 that I did get a request from the Bellito HOA to provide an overview of the amendment concepts at their next HOA meeting, which is February 23rd. So there may be some additional comments, not sure, just wanted to put that out there. And so basically staff were looking for guidance from the commission, whether you want to move the amendment concepts in concept form to the planning board for them to make recommendations, or another trajectory as a commission so desires. I'm happy to address any
No,
questions.
that's the correct manner in which we should move through this. Has to go to the planning board, let them digest it. This is a meaningful set of decisions we have to make here. So let's make sure that we dot every I, cross every T. Okay.
A point that I would make is I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Ron and Peggy Brown as president and treasurer of the BLHOA, Bellito. They're very concerned, interested. They're really looking forward to having a detailed, impact on how this is going to be done in the Bellito area for the homeowners. It is an HOA, which I didn't know at the time, but clearly there's a lot of concern there about it. So, and that is, you're saying February 23rd, and where and
Yes, that is correct. It's February 23rd.
where?
I believe it's going to be held at the Delray Sands.
At Delray Sands.
Yeah.
We have any time on that?
I don't have the time in front of me. I have it written down in my notes somewhere.
Okay,
but
once
I don't
you
know if it's
get
a
it,
private meeting or I don't know.
once you get an email to us all,
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
some of us might want to join in. I just like to make an overall comment, if I may. You have not only put a lot of time into this, you've done a wonderful job on it. Okay. The meetings were excellent. People understood what was going on here. There are some decisions that we're going to have to make, and I really look forward to see what the planning board says. Things that seem simple. Should we require ladders? If we do, should it be 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet, one per house, blah, blah. So I mean, those are important decisions. So once we decide that, it's going to upset some people. It's going to cost money for other people. So I don't think we should be rushing through this at all. And you're not suggesting it, but I just want
No.
to share it with everybody here. I was disappointed in the number of people that showed up. And I know you mentioned it also. The most valuable part of the property and the huge amount of money they spent to have a place on the canal or on the intercoastal, and then even come to a meeting that's going to affect that piece of property. So we're going to have to make decisions off of what the 26 or 7 said and what we learned at Bellito. But, and this I think is a key point, there's not one answer for the entire town for many of these things, like setbacks. It's an eclectic town. We've got multifamily dwellings, we've got single family dwellings, we've got single family on intercoastal versus single family on canals. So I'm positive there's not one answer. The other thing that I'm concerned of is the portion of the box, if you will, that extends out into the canal. And I know we've checked all of but I believe we probably have a canal or two that our definition is not going to work because we'll not be able to get boats through it, or we'll not be able to get a barge through it to put in more pilings. And so, for example, the one next to your building, that's extremely narrow. So I think we need to think about how we're going to handle that one.
Mhm.
And there may be a couple of others, that's all. Okay,
Okay,
but well done so far.
okay.
Anybody have any other comments?
I
Just that
agree.
I look forward to hearing from the Bellito. I think that was a really excellent suggestion to have it at that at that meeting. Not that everybody goes to that meeting, but that'll be really interesting to see what kind of feedback you get there.
But they talk to their neighbors and then they can tell their neighbors to send in their comments
Well, there you go.
so that we get more participation, even if they're not actually there.
Yeah.
I agree that it's not going to be a one size fits all because there are different accommodations and we want people to be able to have the most use out of their property while doing it safely and not impinging on the rights of their neighbors, which is important too. That, you know, if you have a boat and the guy next door wants to have a boat, you both have to be able to get in and out. And you have to be able to pass each other. And we have to take that into consideration. But yeah, let the planning board go over all of this and then send us back their recommendations, which we will then discuss again.
So
Go ahead.
my additional comment would be that I agree with the mayor that there's not going to be one solution for the whole town. We're going to have to recognize, if you will, different zones for these rules. I would also say that I am concerned, and I certainly got feedback from those who have property lines that go out into the intercoastal and that they may in the future want to build out towards their property line, which would be reasonable, but to restrict them inside their current line when they own land or they own the property line is in the intercoastal, however many feet, they should have that freedom. That's, to me, that's property rights. But in any event, that'll all flush out. But I think the important thing is to take, you know, consideration for those who are in different sections of the town. Certainly on the setbacks is another area of big contention. So anyways, it is maybe at some point when we do come to a decision that it's kind of a tentative decision, we send out and test to see what reaction we'll get, because a lot of people still aren't following this, and then they're going to feign shock, surprise, and it'll be a mess.
I can assure you, everybody will not be satisfied. Number one. Two, we will advertise it. We'll,
As we can.
but, and we're trying to get as many people involved as we can. But when we finally figure out what to do, it's not a test. That's what we do. Okay. Anybody have anything else to add? Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, let's move on now to resolution 2023-002. Can be found on page 35. The resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, relating to membership into the Florida retirement system for the fire rescue employees, providing for conflicts and providing an effective date. On page 36, I had one question, and that was, where's 36? Yeah. That this is mandatory. If you know, item 3, Town of Highland Beach agrees to impose on its employees covered by this agreement, the required contribution.
Yep, it's compulsory. Yeah, you have to participate and you have
Why?
to follow.
Why does it?
That's part of membership to their pension system. Everybody in except for me.
Well, but if we have a EMS person, firefighter, whatever, and doesn't want to participate, just not in it.
You have
What?
to. You have to.
You have to.
You have
Is
to.
that union driven?
That's the state system driven. All members, that's part of your initial membership, is that everybody's a compulsory member. There is a little bit of a loophole for us at the dais here. Commissioners can come out of it. I can come out one time, but I could never go back into FRS.
So this would be for all state employees.
State employees or any municipalities that join the state program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I don't like that, but I can't do anything about it.
You're right. I mean, the only way out of it is
I
you.
don't like requiring residents or employees.
Is that another letter to the governor?
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, it's compulsory. They're very strict. They're very firm on that. I know that when I went through it, I asked to be removed from it. Just,
I recall that.
you guys wasn't as peaceful as us now.
Yeah.
But there's a provision for, administrators and then elected officials, but
Okay,
you just can't go back in.
gotcha. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I found a typo, I think,
Oh,
under section 2 on page 36. It says, about half, 2/3 down the line, it says firefighters of this town of Highland Beach. I think it should be the town of Highland Beach.
Council, you had something?
I'm just going to echo what Marshall said. FRS is very strict on this. They want everybody in because they don't want the cherry picking. They don't want the healthy person
Sure.
in or out, the heart attack person in or out. They want everybody's in to spread the risk among everybody.
I guess one of the reasons that I object to it just in concept, but I believe many of our new fire or EMS people will be on their second careers. And they just may say, well, I really don't want this anymore, but it is
so
what
that's
it
it.
is.
That's interesting,
Right.
which we may have to cross that bridge for retirees from FRS that want to get back into the fire service. For 1 year, you can't do anything. You can't take a job. You can't be a consultant. You can't do anything for an FRS community. After that, you can't get back into FRS. So if we wanted an individual that's fully retired and out of FRS, we would have to create a alternative, whether we use the 457.
Okay, well,
We could expand the 401 that I currently work through.
Not impossible.
You could, but we could do those for those that are fully retired out of the FRS system, can go back to work for an FRS community, but they cannot receive or participate in the FRS program and accrue any additional benefits. So if you have somebody that's, 30 years for the county, go to retire, want to come
Yeah.
work for another 10 years here, we would have to set up maybe a 401k program or something
Not a problem.
different from that.
But they'll have healthcare. I mean,
This isn't healthcare, this is
not
pension,
healthcare,
it's
this is
retirement.
pension.
In addition to 401k, retirement, whatever, can they have healthcare?
Sure.
Oh, sure, sure. This is purely pension.
This is
Yep.
just pension.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, can we have a motion on this?
I move we approve resolution number 2023-002.
Second.
Do we need a roll call on this?
Yes.
Thought so.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
and Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. Let's move on to approval of minutes. There are two meetings, January 17th and January 31st. If you recall, the 31st was the special meeting as we worked on strategic issues. Anybody have any comments on either of the two? If not, can we have a motion?
I move we accept the minutes of January 17th and January 31st as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the last before we move on to commissioner comments is purchasing another car for $39,215. I assume this is for the fire.
No, this is
No.
for the building department,
For
and
the
this does
building
not
department.
require a budget amendment.
The building.
There's money in the fund to handle it.
Now, I understand, didn't we just buy one like 9 months ago?
Okay. So here's what it
You're
is.
not getting it too easy.
Right. So we have a fourth vehicle in the police fleet. Rusted out over 100,000 miles, falling apart, been in the service for a while. The building department currently has an Explorer Interceptor hybrid, which is all of our fleet. This would be the fourth in there. Building department has it. There's none available in the supply chain. So we're going to move that one over to the police from building. Building's going to get a standard 4-cylinder because they don't really drive as much, but that would keep the police fleet together. And then Dave and I would work out the accounting back between the two funds. But basically, building has what we need. So we're going to move that over, put the lights on it. It's already an Interceptor. It's ready to go because we can't find any out there. And then the building department would go with just a standard.
And the reason why you can't find one, what's the
Supply chain on, we've had a lot of difficult on vehicles, mostly chips, right? And hybrids, electric vehicles are in all sorts of demand.
really?
So the Interceptor hybrid has now become a very common standard in the police departments. It really works well for us because of the local traffic, gas consumption is way down. So it really works well. Just because everybody wants them, chips, battery, cobalt, you name these random supply chain hiccups, it's just taking longer and there's just none available. And there's some available, but they're not on the sheriff's contract, right? So we get this, everybody would run out and get one for $39,000. It's a pretty good deal, right? You go out in the market, you're going to pay 50, 60, because you're going to have a couple upgrades on it. It doesn't exist. So for the base Interceptor, that's a hybrid, there just isn't any. So we happen to have one with really low miles that can move over. Building can go to a different type of vehicle and still function. So we're just kind of doing that on the fly. Now that on Friday, we got the call from Garber that, hey, we happen to have a regular one. Even a standard hybrid is hard to find, or a standard Explorer is hard. So he had one. We said, we'll take it, grab it, lock it up until we got to today. So.
Yep. Okay. Need a motion.
Well, wait a minute. What
There you go.
color is it going to be? We're going to have white stripes. I mean, what's the story?
It's white in the building department now, so it's easier to wrap with the police logo, the police logos and stuff. So you want. Yep.
Very
Okay.
good. I'm good.
Okay, I move that we approve the purchase of a Ford Explorer XLT for use by the building department.
For $39,215.
It's actually comes out to 43,705.
Oh, when you add all the stuff to it, right?
Right.
Actually,
Okay.
that's the MSRP, so we get a discount from that. So it's really the 39,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, there, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to commission comments. Start with David.
I haven't done it this morning.
Excellent. We like that. Evelyn, anything?
No, I'm good.
John?
So I already shared this with the town manager, but the Delray Beach Owners Association, I guess they're all concerned about Chief Tomey building a fire station on Anchor Park,
Yes.
along with a garage, along with support for the beach guards. I was wondering if there was any more information you found out, Marshall, about what's going on there, given we heard at the last meeting about the rumors.
No, I haven't heard anything more than you've told me that's what's, so there's some concerns on their beachfront community. I haven't heard anything else.
Okay, well, in terms, just to let everybody know, when I was at this League of Cities, Florida League of Cities luncheon, I told Shirley Johnson, the commissioner, that she's certainly invited to come to our groundbreaking ceremony for the firehouse, so that there's no doubt that we're going forward with our fire EMS strategy. The only other thing I'd like to share with you, you already know all this, but maybe for those in TV land, as was said, or on YouTube, I did speak recently to 8 different presidents of condos as we're assessing management company service capabilities. And the key issues that they've talked about, we know some of these right off the bat: insurance, use of reserves, this whole thing with the state bill 4D, certification. So many of these condos are going through certification right now, or at least preparation for the inspection. Gentrification has come up quite often in that there's this new crop of owners, buyers that are coming into the building versus the ones that have been there for the last 5, 10 or more years that are looking for a different perspective on how the building is managed. You have the wealthy versus the lower income or fixed income. So it's kind of it's a tough transition that a lot of condos are going through right now. I did not realize how many are using LOCs and loans to finance many of these restoration efforts. And that's why there's a big concern about cost control and special assessments, which seem to be happening, quite a bit now. After they dry up their reserves, they got to go to a loan, which means, or they go to a special assessment, or both, as in a couple cases. So I just thought I'd pass along. That was the net of these conversations that I saw that were common across all of them. That's 8 presidents, condos, actually a couple HOAs, and about a half a dozen property managers. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one more thing. I
didn't move
Very
fast enough.
quick. I was reading this article out of the Florida Trend. It's about a more sustainable Florida, and I said, okay, but then I read this 2 sentences I got to share with you. About 1,100 people move to Florida daily. According to the US Census Bureau, planners and regulators say there is not enough water readily available for so many people, forcing utilities to look for other sources. The Florida Water Star certification standard are being adopted by a lot of local governments and developers to conserve water. The fact is, it's real. It needs doing. The time is now for conservation. Exactly what has fed into our effort on managing our water, and clearly points out we have a jewel of an asset in this town, and it's our own water plant. It is exceptional. It is unique. It's not common, that's for sure, for a town this size, and how valuable it will be going forward, given the people moving here and the shortage of water.
Right. Well, that's why our town's rated so high.
Exactly.
Yep. Natasha?
Yes, so I presented the results of the water rates to the Financial Advisory Board. And if you recall, there were a couple different scenarios of rate increases that were being proposed. And the consensus of the group was to move forward with an 8%, but to continue to monitor the revenue that comes in this year to make sure it does make sense, you know, right before, because we have to notify the residents at least by August 1st. So we have an opportunity to look at the revenue that we've received so far this year to make sure we're on track. But to the extent that we're on track, the Financial Advisory Board is supportive of an 8%. So I guess my thought is maybe after we've had like the 3 bills, so we're about to get the second bill of this year. So the next bill would be April. So maybe after April, look and see how the revenue is coming in compared to what we projected the increase to be, and make sure we're on track. And then we can, you know, normalize the 8% increase. And that's it.
When the plan was developed for water pricing and sewer pricing, we were not in a recession. Everybody can debate whether we are or we are. Opinion, we have been for some time now, and obviously very high inflation. So I look forward to seeing that. But at the same time, we might want to think about the objective that we had, because times have changed a little bit. For example, we were going to get this completely handled by water, I believe it was in 5 years. Maybe we have to push it out to 7 or 8 years because we're in an inflationary spiral now. Maybe we don't, like you, we'll see what the numbers tell us. But I think we always have to reevaluate some of the objectives that we set, because times change. That's my only point. I was going to show you what we showed to the Beach Condo Association. I can do it next week if you want it. You want it? Okay.
No, next week.
Okay.
Next week.
Or not do it at all. I can just tell you the funny thing that happened.
I'm good with that. The brief
You want it.
synopsis is good.
Okay. Would you put it on the agenda then for next week? Okay. Turn it over to our attorney.
No comments.
Thank you. Marshall, you got a few subjects.
Yeah, well, again, we're busy, and I just wanted to just, you know, as we see the formats, you know, kind of hot topics, just so you know what we're going to talk about. So Public Works, just to let you know, we had a couple wells fail on us in the for the water plant. We're working on getting those replaced. We got one coming in from Lubbock. We have a specialized motor, stainless steel motor for brackish water, so it's a little bit different. So we had 2 go down. So after we picked Pat up, we resuscitated him, used that new AED equipment we got. So that worked well. But he's looking at rebuilding a couple. So we're hoping that we might be able to get a splice and get the second motor going. So at least have a backup as we work on the third to get that motor rebuilt. And we ordered a new one to be put on the shelf. But it's stainless steel. It takes a little while So we had that going on. The other item that we have is we have a radiator problem with our generator. If you go out there, that generator is quite sizable. The radiator is kind of big. What we're trying to do right now, we're probably around $100,000 to fix the radiator on a generator of that size. That's mostly because of the labor and time. Got to take the lid off of it. And then inside of it, we got to rebuild all of it, specialized setup.
What's the value of the generator?
The generator's couple
I know it's
$1
a lot.
million,
How much?
couple million.
Couple million.
It's like a locomotive engine inside it. It's pretty extensive. It's pretty impressive. Mix between diesel and natural gas, so we can constantly operate it. Runs everything here and the new station with no power. So we can provide power for a week or two off of it. So it's a good thing to have, especially with the water plant. But again, the radiator's falling apart. So it's an expense. When we go to do it, it could be down for 2 to 4 weeks. Our goal is to get it before hurricane season, so we don't go without a generator. But I just wanted to let you know that we're working on those items as we speak, just in case you see heavy equipment, cranes, what's going on. So the wells, looks like we're going to take care of the generator. Again, we talked about sewer laterals on the streets, and we'll get those going now. Appropriations, I'm going to hold Del right to the end. Appropriations, we have the fire station appropriation and the lift stations. Again, lift stations was part of our climate vulnerability. We have to elevate those stations, rebuild some of the piping and electrical systems. So we're hoping to get some dollars out of the state. Both of these appropriations were approved last year and then got kind of slowed down. And then they put together that $170 million for House appropriation requests. We put those in there. Those got signed by the Speaker of the House. And then it just kind of went flat. So I don't know what happened to that money that the state allocated for House projects that got the House approval. So we're going to rerun these 2 appropriation requests back. We're finishing up the letter for the mayor to sign on the reserves. Also, there's a new House bill that I got on the sovereign immunity limits. Might be of concern to us. That's House Bill 401. Currently, we have, like, as part of our tort regulation, 200,000 per person, 300 per incident limitation for municipalities. As it relates to us, they want to bring that up to $2.5 million per person, 5 million for incidents. That's just another hit on the insurance side of things. The Florida League of Cities is running heavily on this for us. But it's something also that we want to keep an eye on, and I'll give you updates if they decide to open up those tort reforms, and it's kind of making it more so. So those claims could be quite sizable, difficult, may attract more litigation, but it's also going to hit our insurance side of the equation too. Again, as we get into that wonderful time of year, every year, temporary signs. Again, you can't put them in the right of way. We've made some accommodations to give folks a little bit of space on the west side of the path. We're not going to be able to handle it this election season, but next year we may want to either we really say no public right of way. It puts the code enforcement guy in a really weird spot when the signs that you do see out there that we have kind of allowed to continue on a little bit are in the public right of way. So either we're going to have to come to the point and say no, or we give some type of limitation on timing. If we want to allow folks to put out signs, maybe we say, 45 days prior to the election, you can put up signs and then create parameters. I just sense that every year we cross into that. Just to let you know, the ordinance says nothing in the right of way. We do allow people to put it under the power lines on the east side, parallel with the road. Those are hard to do. And then west of the sidewalk, 2 feet off.
Okay, but these are all very temporary. The other thing I'm concerned about
is the real estate signs.
The real estate signs.
Correct.
It makes us look like, the town's falling apart.
Yeah. So I'm just saying we usually get the phone calls, the emails, you'll get copied on. I can't believe somebody took this sign. If it's in the right of way, it technically doesn't belong there. We'll try to collect them and bring them back here if they're totally out of line. I would just encourage those that are running for office, if you want to put up signs, maybe call Jeff, the building official, and Adam, our code guy, and just talk to him for 10 minutes so we can kind of set some of the parameters so we minimize, the phone calls and the confusion. FWC, we've had a lot of people discussing boat speeds, intracoastals. There was an email, and Tricia, you jump in if I'm off on this, that Boca and Delray had already signed this agreement or letter of interest. Nobody signed anything. There's no action anywhere with any of the three jurisdictions. We are, as we put the Marine unit in place, are beginning to collect data that is necessary to petition, if we so choose at some point, to petition the FWC for intracoastal waterway controls. If you want to do that, they need to know how many accidents, they need to know what kind of speeding. So we're building our body of evidence, as is Boca continues to collect theirs. Delray is now getting a boat in. We're doing some, as Chief has said, some interoperability with Delray and Boca to kind of help each other out on the intracoastal, share that information. But there is nothing that has been officially started or commenced with the state on the control of speeds in our portion. Just hasn't started yet. There's interest. People are talking about it. We're talking about it, but there's no formal action or preliminary steps taken. The confusion we heard is people are confusing us with Hollandale Beach. They're doing something right now, but not us. So if you're hearing stuff, it's a different something beach. Hollandale Beach is different than Highland Beach. So people get confused, small town, intracoastal. But we're, again, gathering that stuff. I do know a report was requested. I thought I sent it yesterday. I looked, I did not send it. Chief Hartman has given me a copy of a report that I'll share with you, just on how many times we've been out there, contacts, what's going on with staffing, and the like. Dune restoration communication, we're going to start sending some things out here. We get a little bit closer to the event. We'll try to drum up attendees to that event of the Natural Resource Advisory Board. That takes me to the last item, which is Delray Beach. So everybody read the Coastal Star, I'm sure, and read that article. Rich, along with his partner in crime over there at the, John had written that article. I thought it was fair. So we, again, as you all know, we've requested some information since they've claimed breach of contract. We met with them. They said that they would provide that data. This is kind of the cliff notes. David and I got a first push of data from them. David spent a lot of time. We're getting through that data. Our goal is to hopefully have some level of recommendation to you from what they submitted, our findings, if you will. But at this point, we're still putting it together. There's a couple holes in the data that David's going to be reaching out to hopefully fill that gap, but we're making some headway with it. So, I mean, this is the best data we've received to date, but we're going through that and should have some conclusions. I don't want to foreshadow anything, but we're getting there and getting some better information and should have some recommendations for this commission. The same meeting that we did, if you will, promised Delray that we would start that conversation more formally with this commission to see if we can't get through our differences of opinion or how we interpret things. So I'm hoping to have that to you shortly again. And then our forensic auditor is still working on more of the historical. If you want to look at it that way, David's taken 21, 22, 16 through 20 is our forensic accountant looking at that too. Yep. So trying to piece together that picture a little bit better, but we're making progress on that. Other than that, I am good. I think I've covered all my topics. Yes.
Nice to see some progress with Delray, David. Anybody have anything before we close?
Just a quick question. The mayor and I were able to go out and see a crane that was dropping in a 100-foot long pump with the pipe. And the size of the crane was enormous. And I was wondering, what if we had built that station back there, how would we have done that?
Yeah, everything's tricky here, right?
I don't know how you could have done it.
I don't know. Nothing. Don't give the consultants any more fodder. They keep on telling me how difficult it is to build anything here. And I'm chasing them on price and they're, it's complicated, so.
The answer is you would get a larger crane that has greater height. And as you go like this, you can get to it. But
I'll invite you out. When we replace the radiator, we have to either cut the roof off the generator building to save money, or we take the whole lid off this thing, then we have to go and pick it back out. It's
Oh,
pretty extensive.
all right, thank you.
Go ahead, Jack. Got to go up to the podium.
Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean. I was noticing on the schedule, at least the last schedule I have for the RRR project, that they're looking at 90% design by April. We're going to have our meeting the middle of March. I'm just wondering how much effect we're going to have. And one of the questions that comes to mind is a subject that you've asked me never to discuss before is Milani Park. If it's going forward, and believe me, I don't want to see it going forward. And if it starts to go into this phase 1 and phase 2, if we're going to do it, we're going to have to do something in terms of traffic through that area. And it would make sense that we were doing it through this construction project if we would have to. I'm just throwing it out for thought. Because I don't have the faintest idea where Milani Park is right now and what's going on with that. So I throw those thoughts out for you for consideration.
Thanks. This is an update on Milani Park. Nothing has changed. It's exactly as the update that I gave you last time. It's on hold. There is a new head of Parks and Recs, and we have a new commissioner representing our geography at the commission. So I'm not going to say it's on a back burner. I'll say it's just on hold. In the meantime, Marshall and I have had one meeting with Marcy already, and we're scheduled for a follow-up. So we didn't report anything because there's nothing to report.
Gotcha.
And I'm
just thinking, we go forward with this reconstruction. We're done.
Jack, you got to go up here. I won't respond to you because people watching can't hear you.
Yeah. My concern is construction's going on. They're showing a year and a half. And that's done. And then along comes Milani Park. And we're going to be stuck trying to have to do something to alleviate our traffic in that area, if that happens. And by the way, as a side thought, we had a couple of us had a brainstorming session this morning on a couple of different things relating to the town. And someone brought up the idea of bringing on board an environmental attorney to look at Milani Park. There is a lot of environmental reasons why that project should not go forward.
Thank you, Jack.
So
If you want a copy of the 30-year-old agreement, you'll find that it's in there.
I testified back then.
Okay.
I will always remember it. I had problems then. I remember.
Everybody has to recognize Milani Park is a very difficult subject. And when you go through this whole, hate to call it a negotiation, but all of these discussions on it, timing is critical. And if we were pushing real hard, we would lose. We have to strike when timing is right. And we have to get the right people moving in the right direction. They still have 5 years after next year. So where we stand. No, we don't want it. We're doing everything we can. Okay. It's 3:23 and we will adjourn. So but we think I say to them
It's not.
after